Hello balloon artists, today I'm going to be showing you how to make this balloon ox or bull. This design was requested by Arabella, who is in my Balloon Artworks Academy. Hi, I'm Melanie from Balloon Artworks in Derbyshire in the UK. Let's get started straight away. Take a piece of 260 and make a raisin, and by that I mean tie a couple of knots at the same point on that 260 and then just trim off either side of that knot so you've got a little piece of 260 knotted. Put that raisin inside your 11-inch round. Okay, make sure it drops through to the bottom of the balloon. This one's being a little bit stubborn. Okay. And then you're going to need a cake board, and I'm using an 8-inch cake board. And then take that 11-inch and inflate. Okay. So you can hear that raisin inside, it's still in there. Take your cake board and press firmly down. At the same time, let the air out of the neck here. And your cake board is now covered. Take your scissors and just trim off that bit of neck there. And then take some sellotape, sticky tape, scotch tape, whatever you call it, wherever you are, and just tape down the latex. Because if you don't, the latex will wander and it will shrink away from the cake board and will then ping off the cake board eventually. So I just work my way around, sticking down the latex. That's just going to secure it. Okay, and then we want to move this raisin to the centre of the cake board. So just nudge it along until you think it's fairly central. It doesn't have to be exact, but if you do want to check, I like to use my cutting mat. So I can see that the cake board is 8 inches here. I can see along the line here that that's about at the 4-inch mark. And then if I move here, I can see that it's about the 4-inch mark there. So that's pretty central, or as close as I'm going to get it. I now take a little bit of 160, pinch hold of that raisin, give it a twist, take my 160, wrap that around a few times and tie a knot to secure that. Okay, and then just tie at the second time. Okay, so we've got a covered cake board now with an attachment point. For this design, I decided to cover my cake board in lime green. For this next stage, you're going to need an 11-inch. I'm using a butterfly print and a 160, and I've cut the tip off the end of the 160. And inflate your 11-inch round. Okay. So that's pretty much fully inflated, and then I'm going to let the air out, and I want the balloon to be about the same size as the cake board. So this is how I do it. I don't measure with I don't calibrate, I don't measure with the sizing box, I just do it by eye. And remember, this is an 8-inch cake board. So when we get to about that sort of size, that's what I want. And I tie that's about the sort of size I want. I place the 160 over the neck of the balloon and I tie the 160 into that knot directly in, okay? In the same way you would if you were creating a string of pearl arch and tying the balloon onto the monofilament line, okay? So that's what we've got. And then I roll that knot to the end. So I've not pulled that knot tight when I've tied it first, and I just pull it to the end like that. You're going to need another piece of 160, and what I want you to do is squeeze the air into the neck of the balloon. So if you can press on a table, just do this gradually, and then take your middle finger and press on that knot and nozzle and push it deep into the centre of the balloon, and you're aiming for the base of the balloon here, and just grab hold of that knot and nozzle, give the balloon a bit of a twist, take hold of your 160 and wrap it round the knot and nozzle. So you're holding onto the knot and nozzle with this hand, and the wrapping round goes on this side, the right side of the knot. Okay, and then tie. And I always like to tie these a second time. Okay, so that's what you've got. And if it looks slightly off to one side like that, that's fine, that's absolutely fine. So this is the side we've just tied. The opposite side, take hold of those two tails and the tails from your cake board and tie the two together. Just wrap them around one another and tie. Okay? At this point, I don't trim these off because I always like to give myself options, and I may decide that I want to do something with this at a later stage, so I will trim that off towards the end of the design. Next, take a 646. Now, if you don't have a 646, don't worry, you can always downsize this design and use a 350 instead. So, or you could even use a blush 6-inch quick link. So there are other options, but I'm going to use this 646. Okay, so I've inflated it quite a bit, but I only want a bubble of about 10 or 12 inches or so, and I want quite a bit of slack here. So I'm going to let this down. Grab hold of it, lay it down and twist. Okay, so that's about the sort of size of bubble that I want, and I'm going to tie that off. Take your base and tie your 646 directly to that base. Next, take a bit of 260 scrap, and I'm creating a raisin. So I'm tying 2 knots in that bit of 260 scrap, the same point, and I'm just cutting off either side of that knot, and then I'm just going to put that inside, that raisin inside, in 11-inch mocha brown. Okay, shake it until it goes to the bottom. Mine's been a little bit stubborn going through into the balloon, but it's gone through now. Okay, and when you're using these raisins and you're using an electric inflator, I recommend that you take hold of the raisin before you put the balloon onto the pump, because they can drop through into your inflator. So hold on to that as you inflate. Shake the balloon, I can hear that the raisin is still there, so I know I've not lost it. And then I want to downsize this balloon. I want to let some of the air out. And I want a bubble that is somewhere between 7 and 8 inches. Again, I don't measure, I judge by eye. Okay, and then tie a soft knot. Okie dokie. And that's what you've got. For the horns, I'm going to be using 2 white 321s. If you don't have any 321s and you're not going to need any, then please don't go out and buy them. You can use 260s instead, you can use 160s. So I always recommend only buying these speciality balloons if you really need them. If you know you're going to be using them for something else, then it's worth getting them, but otherwise they're going to hang around for a long time. This is what I'm using today, and my tip for using these 321s is it can be very difficult, even when you've pushed the balloon really far down onto your hand pump. It can be really difficult to get this tip inflated. So what I like to do is I just take hold of the tip and I just snap it a few times. And I'm kind of just relaxing the latex, if you like. I'm reducing the resistance in the end of that tip, and that's going to help us inflate the tip more easily. So push this 321 down far onto your hand pump, as far as you can go. Okay, and then inflate. Okay, and when you get to, I've not inflated fully, so I've still got this much inflated, and I'm thinking that's probably about the sort of size that I want, and I'm going to tie here. Okay, and you can put a bit of shaping into that by giving it a whittle, and make another one of these. Make sure your ball's head is really, really nice and squishy, okay? And take hold of one of your horns and position the nozzle onto the nozzle of that 11-inch, and then pass that through onto the other side here and give that a twist. Okay, and then take hold of your other horn, and with this bit of slack, as we did for the 11-inch round, attaching it to our cake board, wrap that slack around that knot and nozzle, and then tie a knot. And it is tricky holding on to everything. Okay, and then when you've tied a knot, pull that tight. Okay, so this is what you've got, and then we can start to arrange these, and you will find that your first horn sits in very snugly, it's pulled in nice and tightly to the head, and this one wobbles around. The second one that you've tied on wobbles around a little bit. Don't worry about that, because we've got a way of disguising that. Just take your scissors and snip off a bit of slack on that second horn. Okay, so that's what we've got. We can shape these. To attach the head to the body, we need to create an attachment point, and I just want to judge where I want to put that. So I don't want to put it at the bottom here unless I want my ball to be sort of looking directly at you. I want my ball to be looking slightly down. So to create the attachment point, we need to find the raisin inside the head, and you're also going to need a little bit of 160. And again, I've cut the tip off, and I do that because I find otherwise you can get little air bubbles in these when you're tying the knots, and it can weaken the knot that you tie, the connection point that you make. While we're here, if you're enjoying this video, remember to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of my future videos. The long videos I'm publishing on Tuesdays, and I've also got a new series out on Sundays at 6 p.m, which is twisting for beginners. So if you want to go back to basics and learn how to twist from scratch, then check out my beginners series on Sunday evenings at 6. Okay, so let's find that raisin. Okay, there, I've got hold of it. Give it a twist. Take hold of your bit of 160. Wrap that around. It is a bit tricky because of these horns. Wrap that around and then tie. Okay, and as before, once I've tied once, I tie a second time. Okie dokie. And there you go. So we've got our attachment point at the back of the ball's head. You can take your body, put a twist into that 646. Keep hold of this, and I'm going to tie the head directly onto the 646. So So I like to just snip off the top of the 646, keep hold of it, and I do this so that I only need to make one knot. It just reduces the bulk of the neck. Okay. And then tie. And I'm using both of the tails from that 160, and then at this point I do cut off the 646 excess. Okay, so that's what we've got at the moment. Next, take a 350, I'm using the mocha, and inflate to a tail of a couple of fingers, 3 fingers maybe. I'm just going to soften this slightly, I let a little bit of air out, and then tie. Okay. And then I want to make 2 loop twists of about 4 fingers or so. Okay. And then just take that knotty nozzle and pass it through the centre. That just means it's going to be harder for that loop to come undone. Soften the balloon and make another loop to match that one. Okay, and I like to just take that knotty nozzle and wrap it around the 2 just to hold everything in place. Take your 350 and wrap it around the ball's neck. Okay, if you want your ball to be upright, you're going to want to use most of the 350. I don't quite want him to be upright, so I want him to be hunched over slightly. So I'm going to wrap that into the balls there, the hooves, sorry, and then I'm just going to let this bubble down so that I can tie that off. I'm going to wrap it around a few times more. Okay, and then just snip a hole in the end, let the air down, and then I can tie. In fact, I'm going to tie that to the nozzle. Just going to make one just a little bit easier. Okay, so this is what we've got so far. Taking one of the tails to make 11 inch, just wrap that into the hooves here to secure those in position. Next, take a 160 with a tail of perhaps about 3 fingers or so, and I'm just going to wrap this around the base of the bull's horns. So I just want to loosely encircle the bull's horns, twist that balloon and take that knotty nozzle and pass it through and just break off what's left and tie. Always the tricky thing when you're trying to hold on to lots of things. Okay, and then tie this one off and do the same thing on the other side. And just wrap that around fairly loosely. Put a twist in there and take the knotty nozzle through and then break off and tie. Okay. Just trim off these little bits of excess. I've taken lots of bits of my scraps in different colours, browns, golds, goldenrods, I think there's even a bit of, there's orange in there and there's even a bit of maroon. And then take a 160 and at the middle point, I'm again just going to cut off the end. And at the middle point, just wrap that around the cluster of scraps and then tie a knot. So we're just going to create a little fringe for our ox or bull, whatever you call them there. I wasn't quite sure what the difference was between a bull and an ox until I looked it up. And if you want to know what it is, then you're going to have to look it up as well. So, you can probably guess. Okay. And then I'm just going to tidy up the ends. So where I've kept all the tip ends together, and then this side of the knot, I'm just going to trim all these off a little bit. I just want to create this little fringe effect. So I'm just going to see how that's going to look. Okie, and take those 160 tails and just pass them underneath the 160s quite loosely, and then loosely wrap them around the base of the horns. Take them each side. I don't want to pull it too tight. I need to tighten it up. I can do that later. Next I'm going to make some ears. So I've got a chocolate brown with a tail of perhaps about 4 fingers, and I'm making loops of about 5 fingers. Just going to twist, pass the neck and nozzle through, and then I want to give myself quite a bit of slack, so I'm just going to actually cut it there. Okay, tie this side off. Okay, I'm now going to tie this side and make another one of these. Take a little strap, a little section, and make another ear to match. Snip off the end, tie it two together. Okay, and I'm just going to trim off that bit there, and this bit here. I'm just going to give the ears a bit of shaping outwards. So I'm cupping the end, massaging, just the warmth of my hands, that is just giving them that bit of outward curve, and then take the ear and pass that bit of uninflated section just around the horns, as we did for the fringe. Okay, and do the same thing on the other side. I'm taking a Sharpie brush tip. I'm going to draw 2 ovals. I'm not at the best angle here. Okay, and then I should the same thing on the other side. Eyebrow. And a big smile. I got these from Superdrug here in the UK. I just like to put blush on the cheeks. The white highlighting the eyes. And to finish off the base, take a 260 in green. And at this point, I am going to trim off this little bit sticking out here. And then soften the 260 and just wrap it around the base. Twist. Here. That neck and nozzle scrape off the end here. And tie a knot. And trim off the excess. Which is I like to do, take a 160, I'm using yellow, and I'm just going to make some small flowers, make some loop twists of about 3 fingers or so. Going down, that's where it. Just that on and make another one. Arrange everything. Using a 260 wide. I'm just going to make the centre of the flower a very small bubble. Take it off. And arrange everything. And just snip off the end and tie. Remember to like the video and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my future videos. And I'll see you again in the next video.